All right, folks, my next guest says that President Trump is right on track with his fight to level this global trading arrangement, which has worked against our interests, right? It's worked against the interests of Americans, now not to be confused with American corporations for decades. I'm going to bring in Martin Capital founder and CEO Rod Martin. And Rod, let's begin with the fact that so many key trading partners have higher tariffs against American goods than we have against them. And it's been this way for a long time. And it's so weird because we're the prize, right? You want to get into our markets. So was it ever a smart thing to do other than maybe help corporations?
It was a smart move for a very long time. And by the way, thank you for having me. This was a Cold War strategy. You know, Europe and East Asia were flattened in the aftermath of World War II. It made sense to prop those countries up, to give them lopsided trade deals, to give them lopsided defense deals. These things are not unrelated in Donald Trump's mind. We're paying 70% of the bill for the collective defense of NATO. And all of these things made sense to help these countries stand back up on their feet.
Right.
But the Cold War is over. And these countries are strong. Germany, for instance, is the world's third largest economy. Why are we subsidizing their trade unions and their welfare state?
And yet you have commentators that are saying, hey, we're upending a system that's been created that we're the architects of. Of course, general agreement on tariffs and trade goes back to 1947, I think. So maybe we should freshen it up at this point.
Exactly. These are institutions that made perfect sense in a different era, and they do need to be updated. We're not looking to hose our allies. That's not Donald Trump's purpose. He just wants a fair deal. And the issue isn't the tariffs themselves, it's the access to markets. When Canada charges 280% tariff on various dairy products, they're not actually collecting those taxes, except from just a handful of people.
Right.
What they're doing is preventing American farmers from selling to Canada. And that's the kind of stuff we have to make stop.
Let's talk about China. You've written a lot in the last week about this. I'm going to go through your notes, some of the headlines from your notes chronologically, going back to last week, helping the audience understand. First, on April 3rd, you talked about the illusion of China's strength. Tell us about that.
China is in a very bad spot. They've stimulated the economy far more than we did in the aftermath of the financial crisis. They are facing a demographic implosion, which is entirely self-inflicted due to the brutal one-child policy. Some numbers have them on track for as few as 700 million or even 300 million people by the end of the century.
Right.
What that means in the short term is that you have way too few young people to support the many, many elderly. And that is a catastrophe. That's what the developmental economists would call getting old before you get rich. And it terrifies Beijing. But at this point, there's very little they can do about it. And so China's very dangerous in the next decade or two. They've got to grab whatever they're going to grab right now, or they're never going to have the ability to do it.
Yeah, dangerous, and probably will be desperate enough at some point to go after Taiwan. But I want to ask you on Monday, because you wrote that the tariffs are already working.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what you see today when Donald Trump is pausing the reciprocal tariffs for 90 days. They've gotten so many phone calls from so many global leaders seeking to negotiate that they can't process them all. Last I heard, it was over 70 countries have contacted the White House. Well, that's exactly what the president wanted. And I guarantee you, as much as he talks a big game about wanting tariffs, and in some cases he actually does, for the most part, this is actually the most pro-free trade president we've ever had. And the tariffs are a means to bludgeon people who sell far more to us than we sell to them into a position of reciprocity. The ideal reciprocal number would be 0.
Before I let go, Rod, you also wrote, I think yesterday, that China can't win this fight at the end. And you say, of course, that Xi can't back down, although Trump has the upper hand. And I'm going to put a quote from Sun Tzu's Art of War on here, because essentially, how do we resolve that part of this deal if neither man can lose face, so to speak, but we have the upper hand?
Trump can lose face more easily than Xi. And he's so mercurial, or seems to be, wants to give you the impression of that he's got more flexibility. But Beijing is in real trouble. They have overstimulated already. The economy is already slowing down if it hasn't slowed completely down. They're already in danger of a complete real estate collapse. There's not really a lot for them to do except devalue the currency. And there's only so far you can go with that before you're in really bad shape.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of problems there as well. Rod, good stuff. Your work is really fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.